Okay, well, I think we just for time's sake, we should probably get started. And if other folks show up, awesome. But let me stop my screen share and music. Um, okay. Uh, we are recording this. We had quite a few folks that did want to be here, but said if there was a video recording of it, they would love to see it. I think I don't know if I need to introduce myself. Everybody knows me here, but I have had the pleasure to work at the Center for Latin American Caribbean Studies, and we carry out a variety of activities. One of the things we've been doing for a long time is supporting educators, both K through 12 and folks at community colleges and other teaching institutions to integrate uh, Latin America and the Caribbean into their classrooms. Oh, we got Marietta coming. Cool. Um, what we're going to do tonight is actually a request that our teacher advisory committee, so Wanda and Amy and Will Marie, and we have several others that I'll put in the chat later tonight, their contact information, but they're part of an advisory committee that helps support LACS and also just the International Institute in helping us better understand the needs and perspectives of educators. Um, and one of the ideas was to have kind of more of a regular or standing meeting. We don't really know exactly how best to organize this all for y'all, but hopefully we can get some feedback on like a regular relax. I love that relax hour where we can talk about what we're doing to integrate the region into our classroom, what's not working, something kind of informal, but that's regularly held virtually for folks to kind of be an extra support to y'all. So here's our first kind of like experiment. Hopefully we can keep it going.
Yeah. And if you're just joining us, we're so happy to have you here. Please put in the chat, where are you joining us from? What do you teach? And what is your connection to the Center for Latin American and Caribbean Studies?
Okay, great. What before we get started, I did want to signal my colleague Evan Vowell, who's here on the I think all of you, if not some of you, know him. Um, Evan's been a great support in coordinating across all our different area study centers. So while I represent Center for Latin American Caribbean Studies, we have 17 different programs and centers at the International Institute. Six of them were historically funded by the federal government. I did want to give a quick update because I know a lot of you wrote amazing letters that we used and spammed our senators and congress people. Um, Evan was spearheading a lot of that spamming and meetings and advocacy, so we're really grateful for his work. Despite our like outstanding efforts, really like Evan went above and beyond in trying to petition as much as we could the powers that be in comparison to a lot of other universities. But unfortunately, earlier this month, we received the letter of cancellation of our grants from the federal government. So that means $3.5 million are gone from the International Institute. We are able to use carryover from previous years to support some activities. The priority is going to be to support staff as long as we can at the International Institute. We're in a moment of kind of flux and kind of redesign and trying to figure out how we can best keep up a lot of these important activities, both in the immediate term during this crisis and looking toward the future on how we can sustain it better long term. So, again, like I mentioned earlier, I think utilizing the support of our teacher networks that have participated in our programs, like y'all, especially under the leadership of our teacher advisory committee, will help ensure some continuity and support during this kind of interim period where we're still figuring things out. So I'm happy to at the end answer any questions related to that too. Evan is here too as support. So okay, well to bring in a happy note, we have a couple folks here, Wanda and Amy, that have been longstanding awesome veterans of LACS and international area studies broadly to are integrating into their classrooms a lot of the materials that um, and workshops that we do here at the International Institute and at our center. So I'm going to turn the time over. I don't know. I don't think we discussed this yet, but is there anybody that has a strong feeling to go first? Amy, do you want to go first?
Go for it, Amy.
I distinctly remember Wanda asking to go first, and since she's the doctor in the room, she
Oh,
gets precedence
Okay.
over
All
me.
right. Yeah, sure. That's fine. I have no strong feeling either way. So Wanda, do you want to share? I think I can make you co.
yeah. I have, let me find my, can I share my screen, friend?
Yep. Should be able to know.
Okay. So, all right, let me. Okay. I don't think, can you see it? I don't think you can. Can
Nope.
you?
Not yet.
Can you see it now?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. So it's telling me that only one participant at a time can share. Let's see if that works. So Amy, you should have gone first because you're the techno person. Okay. Still not able to share?
So you're hitting share screen?
Yep.
There it goes.
Oh my gosh. All right. So, what I've done, okay, so to give you a little bit of context, and this is, for people who are in high school and, this is may not be that relevant, but what I wanted to do is just to share how through the years that I've gone through GMEI, I have taken what I've learned and pass it along and do interdisciplinary units with my colleagues from social studies and ELA. And so this is an example of how at my school, as a middle school, this is a sixth grade unit um, talking about geography and borders. And we have the central question of our unit is how do borders impact people? So along the way, students are going to be reflecting on our central question, and that's the message that we want the students to think about and analyze. What do the borders do to people? How do they impact? We do it through 4 case studies. Our first one is, of course, U.S. and Mexico border. The next one is Spain and Morocco. We do North Korea and South Korea, and India and Pakistan, and Russia and Ukraine. Now, last year, every year is different. Every time I come, we talk about something different, and I add something, to the flavor of it. Um, we did an interdisciplinary unit with it when we talked about India and Pakistan. Our sixth grade students had a class book called The Night Diary, and the book is actually a girl talking about the impact of the India and Pakistan border separation. And so we did, as the students were learning about the borders between India and Pakistan, and analyzing footage and material, in the ELA class, they were reading the story. So our idea was to help the students make connections between the book and what they're seeing in their social studies class. So that's a good example. That's an example. Last year we had an author, Omar Mohammed, who wrote a fantastic book, a graphic novel called When Stars Are Scattered. And it is actually a nonfiction book, and it tells his story of how he went from Somalia to Kenya to a refugee camp. And it tells a story of his life in the refugee camp, and eventually he came to the US. So we tweaked this unit we sort of like scrambled it around because he was coming in October, so we moved things. So we never talked about a border between Somalia and Kenya, but then we just flipped the script. And because he was coming and the book was so interesting, we took one of the case studies. I believe we didn't talk about um, the Spain and Morocco, and we substitute that one for Kenya and Somalia so we could incorporate what the author was talking about and the story in preparation for his visit. He came to our school, sponsored by the University of Michigan, the Center for African Studies, and the Center for Middle Eastern and North African Studies were so kind to let us borrow him for half a day. He came to our school and we read his book. There was an incredible donation from the center, so each student could have a book to read. Um, and so that was, that's how we try to incorporate all of this experience. Let me tell you a little bit about what we've done with the US Mexico border. Of course, before we get to the border, we talked about elements of a map. We talked about what's a geographer? How do geographers use maps? And what questions do you have about the border? So, we have our unit organized into like building background and where the borders located. And then we always allocate independent exploration. We try to gather video clips or articles or things that I've heard happen in San Diego and Tijuana that I can help the students. This year we will talk about the Centro de la Raza, which we visited. That's something that we've never done before. This year, we will talk about some of the indigenous schools that we visited, so the kids can learn about, some indigenous communities. Um, I'm gonna pull out some of the slides. Some of them are kind of old because we're actually in the middle of, well, we're in the beginning of the unit, so we're actually working on it as we go. But let me show you a little bit of what we help. And again, these are sixth graders. So a lot of it is just building that knowledge of geography and borders, which for a lot of, other students, it might be something that they have and you can just, expand on your experience. There was one of the slides, let me see. We talk about human and physical borders. So what I'm doing is incorporating, this one was from the New York Times. So later on, okay, see how I took a video of the first time I visited the border, and then I describe it to the kids and what was happening at Friendship Park, and so the kids could watch that. And because I teach sixth grade too, the kids knew me. And so that was a huge connection for the kids. Like you were there, you saw that, you took that picture, you took that video. That was like probably the thing that made the most impact to the kids was the fact that I was there, that I witnessed it. One thing that we weren't planning on that, but incorporating the videos and the pictures on the slides as we learn about the border elicited so many questions from the students that we decided to sort of pivot, and because so many students wanted me to come and talk to the class, and that was kind of impossible because I was in another area. So then we created a Google form, and the students write down some questions. What would you ask Miss Wanda about her experience in the border? And, we sort of like categorize it as when you were at the border, the people that you talked to. So, and we use sentence starters to help the kids being able to formulate. And again, these are sixth graders, so we're just building all of this um, help with so they can, formulate their ideas. So anyway, um, the kids complete the Google form. We have about a million questions, so we categorize it. And then two students, one was the videographer, and the other person volunteered to be the person who asked me the questions. So we had about like a 30-minute conversation in my classroom. And then the next day, the kids were able to see the video that I think it's there in the slide somewhere. Um, But the most important part about that is that that video became part of the student resource packet in a repository. So every year, when the students are choosing a border that they're going to talk about, they can do a presentation, they can do a slideshow, they can do a poster, they can do a collage of, images and phrases and ideas, add some music. So we have a lot of creativity. We want the sixth graders to sort of explore, their creativity. And so the video was one of the resources, and a lot of kids like to hear the teacher telling, oh, Miss Wanda was there and she's answering this question. So we found that that was a really powerful thing for our sixth graders. It really meant a lot that someone that they knew was there, in addition to all of the sources. And I'm going above my time. I can see your hand, Chris.
Okay, great. Thank you, Wanda. Excellent. I'm sure we'll have some questions from our group
Yeah,
in
yeah.
just a little bit, but that's a great example of what I thought was really powerful is how the students really connected with the fact that you were there, you're showing videos that you took, and be able to engage with you specifically on something that sometimes feels like it's just from a textbook, but that you experience personally through our programming here at the center. Awesome. Okay, Amy.
Wanda, you and I were there the same year, right? 2022, because yeah, and I think I was there
Year.
2021
My
as
first
well.
year, yeah, you were there. Yeah.
So everyone in this call has done GMEI, is that right?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, there were a couple experiences. I went twice. I was in the pilot program and then the second year as well. And I understand that this last year you guys did some new things that I missed out on that sounded really cool. Like I think, did you actually meet with people at a detention facility? Is that right?
We no, we did not. It wasn't a detention facility. Um it was it was basically like a mass shelter
Oh,
for
okay.
folks that were well, yeah. We can talk about it later, but it was a
Okay.
complicated
All
space
right.
built during the preparation for a lot of folks that were going to be deported.
And
But
you were able to talk with them directly?
yeah, that was yes, yes.
I say that because I think the experiences that stuck with me, like Wanda was saying, and I imagine many of you that have done this, is those personal interactions, visiting the schools and meeting with the teachers. And I have an image, I don't have it pulled up, but I have an image that when we cross the border on foot and we're on the US side and we're getting ready to cross through security, that there's these they almost look like fangs that are hanging over you in the passageway. Do you remember that walk that you do as you're about to pass over? I wish I had a picture pulled up, but I use that in my classroom too, and just put that up on the board and ask the kids, what is your emotional reaction to this image? It looks very well fortified. It looks very unfriendly. So sometimes those visuals do a lot to communicate the feeling, the experience of crossing on foot, much like the video footage that you use, Wanda. Another story that I share with the students is I think it was the principal from Cesar Chavez who was with us, and I don't remember his name. Wanda, maybe you do, but he is actually a dual citizen, U.S. He's a U.S. and Mexican, and he was pulled into secondary for no apparent reason. We were coming back into the United States. So the immigration officials pulled him aside, brought him into a separate room to interview him. For no apparent reason, he had a PhD. The only thing that I could think of is he was standing with me and one other woman, and we were very obviously Caucasian of no Mexican origin, that he was pulled aside just because of his ethnicity. And so I use that question, or I use that experience whenever I'm talking about Jerusalem and my experience passing from Palestine into Jerusalem across that border control, because my friend is Arab and he was pulled into secondary when he was with me as well. And just talking about how there is that level of profiling that's happening at our borders. So I teach high school world history, And so we can get into more depth maybe than Wanda can and discuss some of those more controversial topics that are going on. So my experience there at GMEI was interesting because of I was experiencing it through the lens of multiple borders. And just a show of hands, how many of you have crossed an international border that's I would say a little bit more, what's the word, risky, tense? How many of you have crossed an international border that's tense and maybe fortified? Okay. So I'm going to share with you a picture. Wanda, wish me luck. Let's see. Okay. Can you see the picture? Yes?
Yes.
All right. So I put together this assembly of photos as an entry point for a conversation. This is a fence that's leading into the DMZ from South Korea into North Korea. You might recognize this. This is actually the Berlin Wall. This is the remnant of the Iron Curtain that divides Western Germany and Eastern Germany. This is the security wall that is dividing Jerusalem and the West Bank. And then you probably recognize this one in Tijuana at the US-Mexico border. So I use this as an entry point for the students to begin considering what Wanda was pointing out, is all of these contested borders or heavily fortified borders that we see in the world today. And sometimes I present this image with a second resource. Let's see if I can get it. It's called Age of Borders. You guys can still see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the Age of Borders is a really cool visual tool to use in your classroom, even if you're teaching middle school, but I think more so high school.
I mean, we're still seeing your photos of the borders. Are we?
Okay, we're gonna stop there, and then I'm gonna share this. How's that? Is that better?
It's coming. Okay, there you go.
Age of Borders. Okay,
Yep.
so it's a very large image that you can zoom in on, but I'm just gonna show you a couple of things. When you have this, and I'll drop the link, you know what, I'll drop the link at the chat for you guys because it's easier for you to manipulate. Okay, it's in the chat now. You can click on it. As you manipulate it, you can see that all the borders on this map have a date. That is the date in which they were drawn. And the age or the color of the line also is indicative of the era in which it was drawn. So there are obvious historical periods that align with this. World War I, World War II. If you're familiar with the Berlin Conference, in which European imperialists divided up much of Africa. And then you also see, if you zoom in, you can see some dotted lines. Those are contested borders, like what we see in Kashmir between India and Pakistan. I believe, I don't have it zoomed in, but I believe even the West Bank is a dotted line. So it can be overwhelming to look at the whole map at once, but with my high school students, sometimes I just drop the link and have them tell me the most interesting thing you notice on this map. For example, where are the oldest borders at? Why do you think that you have the oldest borders there? Usually it's a geographic feature like a massive mountain range. So these are tools to get the students visually engaged and that is something I've used on occasion, even the US-Mexico border, because this aligns with the AP US history curriculum that I teach. So I wanted to give you that tool, but I want to tell you a more personal story. I teach AP US history. Most of my students are like fifth generation living in this community. They're of Dutch and German ancestry. So they don't really understand the immigration situation and the anti-immigrant sentiment, except we have a few students in our community who are from Mexico or from Central America, and they noticed that their friends have a heightened level of anxiety and that they're concerned about their parents, these students that my AP students care about. And so they came up to me after class, a couple of them did, and said, Ms. Perkins, we hear all of these things about people being deported and undocumented, and we're worried about our friends and what that means. Can you tell us more? And I said, you know what? I only know so much, but I'm not a lawyer. So let me make a call. So I called a dear friend who's argued cases in federal court defending immigrants, helping them get US citizenship at a very time that he was overwhelmed at work. And I said, here's the situation. Would you be willing to come in and meet with my students? Because I have a lot of questions about the status of their friends and their friends' parents. And he said yes. And he spent 2 hours with my students, speaking very candidly about the nature of the law and I would say fact checking the rhetoric that the students were hearing on the national level. And he was very candid, but he didn't use jargon. He answered their questions directly and honestly. And when they pushed him on his opinion, he said, I will give you my opinion, but that is not the law. And here is what I anticipate will happen. I invited one of my former students who went online in January because her parents are undocumented. So she stopped attending school in person because she was worried that it might draw more attention to her parents. And I reached out to her and said, hey, do you want to come in? And she came into school that day. She joined us for the conversation and she stayed late to talk to him to get more information to help her parents. So it's that kind of thing that means a lot, being able to empower our students to find answers. It's frustrating that they are in a situation that they feel anxious and they feel unsafe. And I think if GMEI makes any difference to help students feel safer and connect them with people that care. So I'll stop there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amy and Wanda. Um, we have about a half an hour. I know we got some other folks that have been cooking up some great things in their classrooms. I don't want to, you're all experts at being put on the spot because you're all teachers. So I don't know if there's anybody willing to share maybe something, even if it's like just some initial thinking that they've been doing related to how to incorporate experiences from programming that you participated in into their classrooms. It could be related to borders. That'd be awesome. If it's some other activity that you've participated in here at the center, we love to hear those too. So anybody feel like they want to share a little bit about what they've either already implemented or thinking about connecting into their classroom? Daniel, sorry to call on you, but I know you've reached out to me and you're at least with your Enya magazine, I know there's been some thinking about how to incorporate GMI there, but
Right. Yeah. After the experience of last summer, been thinking about how to incorporate with the classroom. So we're working on the next edition of our magazine classroom project that we have going for about 8 years. And so the next edition, I wanted it to display and feature some of the learnings of the GMI this year. Um, so right now, I'm thinking how to incorporate in practical terms. My focus has been um, so far like through art. Like I was impressed myself seeing the displays of art right there at the border when we visited. They had just finished this mural with the eagle and the condor. So I would like to explore these avenues as a way to present it in the classroom, because it is true that the border and the emotions that it awakens um, can be a little conflicting for students, and I think that art naturally presents a way for students to connect in ways that are um, you know that links to growth and learning. And so I think I'm going to work with some collage this semester. Some collage. I have the magazine. I propose a theme of aquí allá, here there. It is something that also impacted me. How the people how the people in Tijuana talked about the border of being here in San Diego and then back and then living in that area. And it's not just the border; it's the communities around the border. Um, so aquí allá, a theme that I think is pretty open to with the intention to make students connect their own ways, what it means here and there. Um, so that's where I'm at.
Excellent, excellent. Um, and we applaud your for those that don't know, and I'd love to like have some way to share that out, Daniel. Danielle works at Huron High School here in Ann Arbor uh, in a Spanish class. I don't know if the magazine is specifically the Spanish class or is it more than just your class?
See, it's a project of my Spanish classroom, but it's also a collaboration with the English department, with the art department. So and really open. I would like it to be like an open project this semester too. So I invite all the community of the GMI to participate. The work that they're doing with students, we would like to feature student work from different classrooms from different countries, ideally. To contribute to that idea, right?
Yeah.
Yes, the here and there and um, collaborative reflection on the issue.
Yeah, excellent. If you're okay, I'm gonna follow up to all the folks I sent this email out to some copies of your past magazine editions so you can kind of get in like a feel of what it is, but it's an amazing project and they print off copies. I've seen it at our library and here on campus, and I think other public libraries too sometimes carry it. But it's this collaborative student-led project where they pick a topic, write articles in Spanish and English, sometimes other languages, but using the experiences that you have from our programming. Ooh, look at that. Marietta has physical copies. Great. Yeah.
Awesome.
So cool. And the art is always so beautiful. So that's another way. Um, I think, I want to open it up for questions, but just to kind of like summarize, I love how like, Wanda is an ELA uh teacher and supports different classrooms in middle school. Amy is a history teacher. Daniel is a Spanish teacher. But you can see how like our programming can apply across disciplines and can be also spaces of collaboration with other disciplines and teachers. Hopefully not just in your school, but we can be a bigger network to support you as well. I think I've shared this in different spaces, but I remember when I first got my job and I was just kind of listening to people on how we can improve things and what's working well and stuff like that. And I remember one teacher share with me, she said it's called the power of two. Like sometimes you're the only teacher in your class that is passionate about global issues or Latin America or whatever, but just finding one ally, even if they're not at your school, can be all the difference to help you, you know, take it to the next level and to get new ideas and keep in this work. So awesome. All right. Well, I'll stop yapping. Uh, questions for Wanda, Daniel, or Amy, or anybody, I guess, challenges that you may be facing. Just this is an awesome space where we can just be authentic and we can even share frustrations and co-commiserate with you or whatever it might be.
Jessica, thank you for sharing that resource. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What you put?
Hi. Yes. Well, I work with the AATSP for my state, but I am no longer a Spanish Honor Society advisor. So this is really through the Sociedad Honoraria Hispánica. But really, anybody could be a member, and it is a place for students to become published, either their artwork or poetry or short stories. I have not done this before in the past, but I know that there are many teachers who do. And I think if you're interested, you probably would contact your AATSP in your state, and they would provide the support to do that. So in Wisconsin, for example, I'm really happy to share the contact if you want for doing the albericias. I can put her email in here if you would like. But I know that that is one too. And I'm going to link in the chat. There's also a poster contest, and so I was thinking with Danielle for your art magazine might be another way to connect students too in the posters.
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you. Great resource. Wow.
Yeah. Chris, if you don't mind, I'd like to.
You just muted yourself in the middle of your sentence.
I want to call on my colleague and great friend, Rosie Salazar. I mean, she's a fantastic high school teacher at the border. And I know you've not been part of GMEI, but you lived the border experience a lot. Is there, I mean, I love listening to what you do and your stories. Is there anything that you would like to share with our colleagues?
Vas a ver. So I live on the border, Nuevo Laredo and Laredo, Texas. And I think what's interesting for us, like listening to what Amy was saying and Wanda with the videos, it's such an everyday thing for us that I think a lot of the times the kids just don't really pay attention to it. It's not really like a border for us. It's been more of a fluid border. We have students who live on the American side, but on the weekends they go back to their parents. So you see them crossing the bridge. You see people getting married at the bridge. We also have, we don't have fangs there, but now they've put a lot of the Homeland Security people at the middle of the bridge. And there's like 3 and 4 of them, and you have to show your, I guess, your visa before you actually go up to the officer on the other side of the bridge. So we see a lot of that, but it becomes very commonplace for our students. So one of the things that I started doing was with our migration unit, my students had to interview somebody, the person in their family who actually was the first to migrate to the US. And it was really eye-opening because the kids had no idea. No, they just don't ask those questions. So they had no idea about what the parents had gone through or what the grandmother had gone through or the aunt or the uncle. And so really eye-opening for them. And then I kind of add speakers from like Pulitzer Center. We had uh, a Pulitzer Award winning journalist who talked to them about the Darien Gap. She had actually done that that crossing, and she was talking about that, and my kids were just, they just couldn't believe the stuff that happens. So I think it just makes them, when they do something like this, just makes them a little bit more aware, I guess, of the plight of others. We also have students whose parents are illegal or they should not be here, and they have their teachers that they come to when it it just becomes too overwhelming for them. But for the most part, it's a pretty quiet community. We have a lot of support, 99.9% Hispanic. We have a lot of support from our schools. So it's been pretty calm here as compared to what I hear at other borders.
Great, thank you. Any questions or challenges that you have experienced in integrating experiences that you've had from our programming into the classroom? Like, do you feel really comfortable? You already have carved out time space to be able to integrate these kind of material into your classroom. You have all the support in the world from everybody to do it. Um,
Hi.
yes, hi, Sharon.
Yes, and so from here from Puerto Rico, I'm teaching this year American history from the United States, right? And then I start with migration, one of the first topics. When we talk about geography, I was introduced them the term of xenophobia, and they really in Puerto Rico they see those things like something new. And then when we continue working and then we talk about migration, many talk about the migration of Venezuela because of this conflict that we have just in front of us, right? But the challenge I have with the students are their investigations. When they start looking for information, they many times they take the part of they just see one side of the problem. They don't see the problem complete. So and then I try to use more personal reflections like the estudios de caso un poquito más more specific, and then say how you think they feel when they happen these things to them, or in what challenge they have to cross borders. They should be able to do it. And then I introduce to them the term that it is a derecho humano to move around the world. That when people move from Puerto Rico to the States, it's the same thing that happened in different part of the world, only that we have different type of situations. But the challenge is they finding the correct information or the complete information. Always is partial, always is in half of the way. So now we are in the third work, and then I'm trying to show them how you can cross-check the information from different, you see, from where is that newspaper? From the South or from the United States or from Europe? Who's writing? What type of people is writing? Or they can have a little bit of in reaction in more correctly in the way that they're supposed to be, right? In Puerto Rico, everybody see everything nice always, up to that doesn't happen in front of them. Then they get scared, but come the police. But if not, they don't see the things that's happening around us. And when they talk about Venezuela, they just talk about how the government see it and not how the really is happening around them. But for me, it's a challenge. I hear how in specific with the information that the Wanda and Amy give, but not always running class by class. I found this type of information or page or links that help students to do it faster, better, and more completely. I don't know if everybody understood what I was saying.
Yeah, no, I think it's excellent. I think it's excellent, Sharon, I think it's a great actually example of, I mean, especially right now, I know we can have um a lot of the news can be very disheartening because I mean, it's real. It's affecting, like Amy said, students and their families in our classroom. But especially with Latin America, especially with these kinds of global issues and the US's relationship to the region, like we can take it as an opportunity we can actually seize the opportunity to teach critical thinking skills, media literacy, even if your class isn't necessarily focused on Latin America, because of it being in the news cycle so prominently, the connections and ties with the region, you can use this opportunity to help build greater critical thinking skills, research skills, literacy, media literacy skills, um, in incorporating the region, right? Looking for alternative sources. I think too, it's been so powerful in terms of technology is with, even though it's not perfect, but with like Google Translate, there's so many new um, digital tools for researchers to cross language barriers. So if your students may not be Spanish, you may not be in Laredo, Texas, and your students have like at least a family member that can translate everything for you. There's lots of digital skills that you could use to look at different sources of media as they cover
That's
these kinds of
that's what
issues.
I'm trying to do. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah,
They use the technology. This year, I have in on almost every class students that don't speak Spanish. They have a big problem because they come from the States and they don't speak Spanish and they come directly to the classroom. So at least in my classroom, I talk half English, half Spanish. I try to to show them into the two ways, but it's the critical thinking that
yeah,
is a challenge for them, and to look for the information the most completely way possible, not only the half of the information.
yeah. Excellent, excellent.
If I might add something to
Yeah,
what
yeah,
Sharon was saying. Yes, as Puerto Rican and as a U.S. territory, right? Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory. So in terms of Venezuela and everything that's happening in Latin America, I think one of our challenges is like strengthening the view that our students have about Latin American because they are so Americanizados that they listen to United States music. They're like consuming everything from the US, right? So I'm trying in my class to expose them to other ways of seeing the reality, as Sharon was saying, and trying to find like resources that are not TikTok, of course, because they're like, teacher, I saw this on TikTok. And that's also important, right? Because they need to like be able to see if what I saw on TikTok is something that I should take seriously. So I think that the way the kids, Puerto Rican kids, see the world is very like ah Americanizada, and that's a challenge for us because we need to shift the way in which our kids see Venezuela, Mexico, Cuba, República Dominicana. So through music, I'm trying to like make them feel Caribbean, like where we're from, right? So I'm trying to incorporate of all sorts of resources and things.
excellent. Yeah, yeah. I think we need to transition to some final points I want to share, but or like resources I want to share. But something that's been helpful with my class. So I taught for 7 years as an adjunct, and I taught in this really interesting space where we taught undergraduate level, uh, like introductory courses to political. I was in political science, so political science, but it was taught. We had this program to teach introductory level courses, but in a language other than English. So I would get a lot of heritage speakers as well as people that were learning Spanish, an intermediate level. And what I tried to do was keep my teaching um, open enough that I could incorporate case studies from particularly our heritage speakers into my classroom. So we could look at, so we're learning about civil war or political conflict, talking to my students about their families' experiences, how did they get here, etc. I can leave it open to how I know Amy does this really well. She teaches like a reversed course where the students select the topics. I didn't have that complete flexibility with my college class, like my undergraduate classes, but by incorporating student content, case studies, these experiences that speak to our students can be really powerful. I remember I had a student, again, kind of like with what Rosie shared. She had no idea how her family got here from El Salvador, and that was because of the Civil War and what the process was and all the experiences was. She became like a researcher, and then she taught the class about the Civil War in El Salvador. I just gave her some scaffolding. I had another student, I remember she wrote in her she didn't, I mean, no, they're anonymous, but I knew it was her. In the feedback for the class, she said, when I took this class, I was like, who is this white guy going to tell me about Latin America? And then she said, but then he started sharing speaking to my history and speaking to my culture and so on. And she's like, this is the first time I've ever felt seen, like my heritage was an asset in a college class in a monolingual English institution. You know what I mean? So I think figuring out creative ways to elevate student experiences, connect to students' experiences, help them develop these critical thinking skills, giving them alternative sources is so powerful. And we can do that using the region. Like it could be any region, but particularly right now in the news cycle, using Latin America as an asset to build these skills, I think is really powerful. So, okay. Any last comments or thoughts before we pivot real quick to wrap up? Okay. I wanted to show just a couple of resources. So again, like I had mentioned, um, for those that maybe popped in a little bit later, um, the International Institute is going to be going through a series of transitions. We're not fully sure on all the program offerings that we'll have, especially in the immediate term, with the loss of our federal funding. Regardless, we have these amazing folks, Wanda, Amy, and Rosie, who are here today, and Will Marie, who are part of our advisory committee. I'm going to put their contact information in the chat. We have 7 members. Why did that go? 7 members that are part of our teacher advisory committee, that are here as a resource to y'all in this kind of interim period where we're still trying to sort our programming out. So please take note of at least their emails, to reach out to them if you need help or support. If you need additional resources, like they have tons of, just like the little things that Amy, like the brief moments that Amy was able to share some slides and Wanda was able to share some slides. They have tons of stuff like this. So they would be great resources to y'all to share additional content. Also, just be like a support to you and commiserating or brainstorming, while we kind of sort out what our program offerings will be here at the center and at the International Institute. The other thing I wanted to share was, okay. Oh yeah, maybe I wrote that wrong. Sorry. Okay, so I wanted to share a couple websites. So you may not know, but that I locked myself out of this thing. Okay, sorry. 1 second. You can see all my bookmarks.
There's the fangs.
Yeah, there's the fangs. Yeah, I was trying to look that up, but you see the fangs. Very uninviting installation art on the border. Okay, bookmarks. So I'll send this out, but there is a consortium of Latin American. So can you see this website? Yeah, CLASP.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the consortium of Latin American studies programs are not just necessarily federally funded centers. So there's centers all over the country that do Latin America and support educators. They have a website that has a ton of curriculum. So if you're interested in indigenous knowledge and history, here's some sample ones that they have with lesson materials. So like the Amazing Twins, Ancient Mayan Tales from the Popol Vuh. You can click here, it'll redirect you to Vanderbilt. They have book lists and podcasts, and they have grade levels. They have files that you can use, these beautiful resources that you can use at your fingertips for free. We are still updating our website, so we don't have necessarily all the materials on our website that we've created specifically from our programming of the last several years, but those will be up, and you can also reach out to our advisory committee members um, for additional resources that we've created here. There's also another website called Teaching the World. And even though that there's a lot of loss of funding to support some of this content, I have gotten word that for at least the next 3 years, this will be active and working. But you can look up not just Latin America, but all these different programs. What I love is they have a calendar, and different universities have put up like a lot of their summer institutes that they do, or month to month will have different I don't want to make that load, but they'll have different activities that you could participate in. A lot of them virtual. If you select this Latin America tab, there's also upcoming events that are Latin America. There's different Latin American related centers across the country you can click on. There's lesson plans you can type in by subject, or let's see. Anyways, I don't want to waste your time looking at this. You can play around with this, but I'll send this in a follow-up email that you guys can all have as well. I'll just put it in here in the chat in case anybody wants to keep it right now. Okay, we're at 8 o'clock. I don't want to take much more time. I did want to mention to the group, I will unfortunately be leaving LACS. I have a new position here at the University of Michigan at the Office of Global Affairs for the School of Nursing. So I'll be working as their global engagement manager. So we have a lot of partnerships across the world, not just Latin America, and faculty programs. Are the new director there is from Brazil, and she's wanting to do a lot more with Latin America. So I'm really excited to be able to build on the partnership skills and these workshops and activities that we've been doing with the School of Nursing. But I do have my awesome colleagues here. Again, Evan, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself, but he's going to help provide some continuity. We have our amazing advisory committee that are here as a resource to support you. I'm just so grateful that I was able to meet you all and work with you and experience a lot of this together. So, yeah, Evan.
Chris, we're gonna miss you so much. I just it still doesn't seem real to me. And just know that myself and I know the rest of the teacher advisory committee, we're gonna try to keep your legacy going. And I think at least meeting as much as we can during these times. We're like you said, we don't know what our funding will entail. Just know that I'm working as hard as I can to try to keep at least GMI going and may not be in the same iteration. But just know that you've created a great shining city on a hill for us to try to live up to. And I don't know if we'll be able to without this funding, but we're going to do the best that we can. And thank you for pouring your heart and soul into this work for the past few years. I think everyone that's attended anything that you put on has seen that firsthand, and it really hits my heart in a profound way. So,
Well, thank you.
we'll leave it like that.
I was not trying to solicit that. Like, I am so great. I really honestly feel like this amazing work that we've been able to do has been a collective effort. It's not because of me, and I hope that that we built it in a way that it wasn't dependent on me, so that it can continue to support educators into the future. And again, as we don't know the funding situation, I think all of you that have participated in our programs can be amazing stewards of these experiences in your classrooms and in your schools communities. And we're, again, like I said, it's the power of two. We can be allies here in this work together and make a difference, a real difference, like Amy was mentioning in the lives of our students, whether it be developing critical thinking skills or helping them have resources to immigration law. All those things are important. So I'm so grateful to have been a part of this for the last several years. So thank you.
Thank you, Chris, for all the organizing. I mean, it's been amazing. And for all of us who were able to join us, spread the word, share the resources. Let's keep our connections going. I think that would be probably the best way where we can continue to support each other and our students and our families.
I think too what I know there was a big list and a good amount of folks came tonight. Amazing on a Tuesday night, school night. I think what to maybe be systematic, and I'm just thinking like off the cuff. It might be smart to like I could make a little like Google form or something and try to gauge maybe when would be good to meet again. If the I don't know. I guess the first do you all feel like this was helpful? Those that are not part of the advisory committee, like folks that showed up tonight, did these give you some ideas and resources? Was this something you'd like to do again, like once a quarter, once every other month, or have these in kind of informal, almost like office hours, right? Like where we could share some experiences.
Yeah, I think once a quarter would be great. Especially, I don't know how the others are, but in this political climate, it can be remarkably difficult to discuss some issues. And I'm just wondering how others are doing it and what resources work for them. Because we want to support our students. Our curriculum matters, but it matters in the sense that it empowers the students to be able to, you know, combat disinformation and the rhetoric and better understand each other and demonstrate empathy and compassion. So I'm very curious how others are handling that situation. So my vote would be to meet once a quarter at least, if we could do that.
Yeah, I think that would be great too. And like you said, how are people just working to combat this rhetoric and support each other and support the kids and the families.
Yeah.
And
And
go people.
and I know it won't matter in 2 weeks, I guess, but my hope would also be like how can we use regional content from Latin America to address those very things that you're talking about? How can we build empathy? How can we build critical thinking skills? How we can connect to the different state standards you have to incorporate in your classroom? So I think this could be a cool space where we have a network and it would be free, right? This would be something that could reasonably be organized once a quarter or however frequent it makes sense for folks. Um, okay. I see some some thumbs ups, and so I'll send some follow-up materials in an email this week. And then hopefully we can also get some feedback from folks somehow. I don't know if it'll be a Google form or something, but on when the next one could be.
Okay.
So thank you all and have a great night. And again, it was such an honor to have met you and worked with you and feel blessed by all your energy and the work that you do. So thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And thanks everybody for coming.
Thank you, Chris, and everyone.
Nos vemos.
Nos vemos.